Okay, the networks are down.
Yo, Smokey, it's Good Game. Hey, can you hear me? Yeah, I was just calling to ask really fast. Did you get your money from my heist? You sent him a friend request, right? No, not right now. They're in the middle of doing their work. Don't bother them too much about it. Before they log off for the day, they said that they'll add you to your friends list for you, all right? And then you can. Oh no, I have to go really fast, my boy. I'm sorry. I wanted to get you in there though and get you some money. One of the guys decided to go because they weren't paying him, and so you ended up getting chosen. You were the only other person that wanted to do it with us. So that's why I called you back. I just wanted to make sure you got your $300,000 right from my heist. All right then. Yeah, if they don't add you today, don't stress out about it. You have me on your friend list. If any more work comes up, you'll be the first in line as long as you're around, okay? All right, very good. Enjoy yourself. Have a good weekend. I'll be in touch. All right then. Cheerio.
heartburn in as little as 30 minutes and lasts up to 12 hours. Zantac. Eat your way, treat your way. Fried chicken isn't supposed to come in a box with crunchy tacos, Doritos Locos tacos, and a drink. And it definitely isn't supposed to be served as a crispy whole white shell. Guess we've got a tradition of breaking traditions. The $5 naked chicken chalupa box is back at Taco Bell.
Hey Google, call Maddie. Okay, dialing now.
Hey Google, call my brother. Hey Google, call my brother.
Text Carol. Can you text Carol for me too?
Hey Google, just text me.
Kelly said, I love you. You're my cuddle bear.
Text Kelly. No, you're my cuddle.
Hey Google, place in CS.
Hey Google!
Find my phone.
Whoa.
Hi, what can I do for you?
The MLB All-Star Box. Del Taco has the freshest food because of hard-working hands, like Andy's. Making the chicken quesadilla snacker. Full of freshly grated cheddar cheese and hand-grilled chicken for just $1. So we think Andy's hands deserve a break. There you go, Andy. Ah, nice. Del Taco, celebrating the hardest working hands in fast food.
It's Toyota's Red, White, and Used sales event. Celebrate your independence with a great deal on the Toyota model that's just right for you. Right now, get a $239 a month lease on a full new Camry LE, or a low $179 a month lease on a new Corolla LE. Hurry! Toyota's Red, White, and Used sales event ends soon. Your Southern California Toyota dealers make it easy. Toyota, let's go places. At IKEA, we believe your perfect student deserves the perfect room for the perfect price. And who's there? A boy? You never told your dad and me about any. Wait, what's going on now? Move the flag!
You think mobile means you're free, but you're really not. You're tied to a contract. They say sign here and you do, and then they've got you. But escaping is easy. In fact, it's simple. Simple Mobile. Truly unlimited high-speed data with nationwide coverage on the lightning fast 4G LTE network. And no contract, ever. Get truly unlimited 4G LTE data for just $45 a month. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple.
At IKEA, we believe your perfect student deserves the perfect room for the perfect price. And who's there? A boy? You never told your dad and me about any. Wait, what's going on now? Move the flag! When you're America's best value, who needs balloons? Okay.
The America's Best Value 4th of July event going on right now at Cube.
Use the latest technology to treat patients, but your care and compassion is timeless. Advancing your career means helping more patients and providing even more care. Grand Canyon University's online programs in nursing make it convenient for you to become the expert every patient deserves. Find your purpose at GCU, where advanced technologies and innovation drive education. Visit gcu.edu/online. When you're America's best value, who needs balloons?
The America's Best Value 4th of July event going on right now at Cube.
You're watching Fox 11 KTTV Los Angeles. We now join our regularly scheduled program in progress.
Let's say you're Bigfoot, the legendary monster truck. You spend your nights grinding cars into a fine paste with your massive tires. But what do you do all day to demonstrate your awesomeness? Simple. You try and set a new monster truck long jump record. Go
360. A single frame pulled at random from any one of these angles would make an excellent tattoo to your back. Think about it.
202 feet.
Whoa! 202 feet! You have any idea how far that is? That's like taking 202 foot-long hot dogs, laying them end-to-end, and jumping it in a monster truck. But the jumbo jet works too. Goodbye, Bigfoot. We love you. Next time you're in LA, land at the endless traffic jam and the $60 goat cheese pizza, take the 20-mile, 3.5-hour trip down the 605 freeway and check out some powerboat racing in Huntington Beach. You got huge monster engines, candy-colored fiberglass, and plenty of babes in bikinis. You don't have to be Wolfgang Puck to know that's a recipe for fun. They call these cigarette boats, and I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe because they're highly likely to burn up and kill you. And you know, if we're showing powerboats, someone's gonna flip. I swear, these things are tipsier than my Uncle Eddie at happy hour. If you've ever done a belly flop or wiped down on water skis, you know crashing into water can be painful, especially at speeds in the mid-80s. The crew of the overturned boat is yet to emerge. They were strapped in there pretty good. Hopefully they can get unstrapped. No easy feat when you're upside down and underwater. Rescue craft rushed to the scene and the mood on the shore grows tense.
That's going up. Okay, that's good. That looks like we've got both sides now.
Thank you, Debbie, for that serious and insightful update. Sometimes when we show a hectic wreck like this, we always say the driver's okay even when he's not, so as not to bum anyone out. But here's the driver himself later in the hospital. How you feeling, dude? There, now you don't have to feel guilty for enjoying this. Here at Whacked Out Sports, we celebrate all lifestyles. Your personal life is your business. We're all just here to worship the insane sports blooper as one. Still, there's always something that bugs me a little bit about two dudes on a bike. It's a little weird. Did I say weird? I meant awesome. That is some rock-solid ragdoll flipping action. And we barely had to put up with any actual racing. I now love two guys on a bike. Heck, make it three guys and a goat. If it means more sweet wipeouts like this, I say, you... When Whacked Out Sports crashes back, KTV's getting some sick revenge.
Fox 11.
It's your favorite snack. Cause Alzheimer's. What did the study show? Own to us.
Monday at 1 on Fox 11.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy one room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy one room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy one room and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
This is Blacked Out Sports, the home for epic fails.
Percentage-wise, there is no more dangerous motor vehicle than the ATV. I'm surprised they're still legal. Big deal, you're probably saying. So I might break my arm. So what? I say fine. Go ahead and poo-poo the statistics and throw caution to the wind all you want. It's better than cautioning statistics and throwing poo-poo to the wind, but that's a different story. All I'm saying is, before ATVs, it wasn't really possible to run over your own face. But now, try explaining that to your HMO. And let's give a shout out to our newest cameraman, Ron. That's him at the bottom of the pool. And there he is again. Ron tried his hardest to make it on the BMX stunt circuit, but the only break he managed to get was a cracked collarbone. So now he's going to try his hand at camera work. And he sucks at that too. Don't sweat it, Ron. You can always be a security guard. Just not a bike cop, okay? Gone are the days when you'd see something cool and say, damn, I wish I had a video camera. Because odds are you have one in your pocket. It's that thing that blares Mambo number 5 right in the middle of a funeral service. That's right, I mean your cell phone. An alert viewer who calls himself Tripod Jimmy sends us this action from an underground fight club in Ohio that specializes in 3-on-3 matches. They start out as 3-on-3s, but usually devolve into 1-on-1, on-1, 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 on-1. It is melee-licious. Keep your eye on the bald guy with the nice rack. He really gets his money's worth at this all-you-can-punch buffet. Stuff like this must have boxing promoters quaking in their lizard skin loafers. I mean, this is rad and basically free to watch. The average prize fight, on the other hand, costs $40 on cable and has less action than an episode of Dancing with the Stars. Thank you, technology, for making the world a little more entertainingly barbaric. From a 3-on-3 mauling to a couple of guys free-falling. Now that science has pretty much perfected the cordless phone, maybe they can start working on the cordless parachute, so things like this won't happen. I get uncomfortable when I have to share an elevator with someone. Imagine being tangled up in a death spiral and having to make small talk. Hey, how's it going? Boy, the trees sure look small from up here, huh? Woo, getting bigger though. Yeah, bigger, bigger, bigger. The good news, both survived the plunge. The bad news, they had to share a hospital room. There's another 6 weeks of forced, awkward togetherness. Stick around. Fill yourself into the newest diet trend of the summer. Sweating never looked so good. The Steeds and Seeds master the art of pumpkin paddling. Plus, the adventures of Super Dork. A girly goalie adds life to soccer. Plus, the Whacked Out Sports Top 5. That's next.
Don't sweat it, Wacom Sports will be right back.
Are there places around your home where you wish you had a light, but you don't?
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for the Atomic Angel, the motion-activated cordless LED light that sticks up just about anywhere, lighting up the path atomic bright for you, your family, and your friends. The Atomic Angel tilts back and forth and rotates 360 degrees so you get the perfect amount of light exactly where you want it. The secret's the technologically advanced motion detector that activates automatically whenever a person, pet, or automobile crosses its path. Compared to a regular LED light with over 460 lumens, it blows away the competition. Stick it up by the front door, the back door, or side entrance. The Atomic Angel is bright enough to light up an entire backyard. Ideal for making a pool safer and so much more. It's the first one to see you coming and makes a great garage light. It can even light up a shed or an attic. Atomic Angel is motion activated. It uses the super bright COB LED panels that have a lifetime of over 100,000 hours and turn off after 30 seconds. Putting in a light is expensive and impossible, but the Atomic Angel comes with a super adhesive strip that sticks up anywhere and stays up no matter what Mother Nature throws at it. Call or click now to get the motion-activated Atomic Angel for just $19.99. But it gets even better. Order now and you can double it and get 2 Atomic Angels. Plus, our best-selling Atomic Beam flashlight. The super bright tactical flashlight that lights up an entire room and can take a beating. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll ship them to you for free. That's 2 Atomic Angels, one for the front door and one for the back door. The Atomic Beam flashlight and free shipping and handling. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-944-7131. That's 1-800-944-7131. Call now or go to buyAtomicAngel.com. So call 1-800-944-7131 or visit buyAtomicAngel.com. Order now.
Because of their size, large trucks present a greater danger for serious injuries, which is why the trucking industry is regulated by safety codes. Unfortunately, they're not always followed. We have resolved hundreds of trucking cases over the years, including some with multi-million-dollar results. If you're injured in a trucking accident, contact us. We can get you the top medical attention you need, and we can come to your home or hospital to assist you. If there's no recovery, there is no fee. FreeConsultation.com. Closed captioning provided by.
Whether it's planned taco night or surprise pizza, Zantac works when you need it. It relieves or prevents heartburn in as little as 30 minutes and lasts up to 12 hours. Zantac. Eat your way, treat your way.
Bug bites, itchy rash.
Relief starts now. Gold Bond Rapid Relief. 2 itch-fighting medicines instantly relieve summer itches. Gold Bond.
Work it out. This is Wacom Sports.
Gratuitous coverage of swimsuit fashion trends has been a staple of sports magazines for over 30 years, and I use the term coverage loosely. We told the boss we wanted in on this action. But talk about poor planning, our swimsuit report expands the very same year the swimsuits do. This is Saudi supermodel Bushra Al-Shama showing off the burkini. It's part burqa, part bikini, and it's the hottest thing to hit the Persian Gulf since the Scud missile. And yes, showing off is another term I'm using loosely. Nothing like a skimpy 9-piece bathing suit to get the juices flowing. The burkini really leaves a lot to the imagination, and thanks to television, my imagination ain't that good. Professional beekeepers don't wear that much clothing. Talk about a culture with swimsuit issues. Can we have a quick palate cleanser of skin, please? Thank you. In Switzerland, they don't celebrate Halloween or Thanksgiving, so come the fall, the old pumpkins really start to stack up. They gotta do something with them. Sculptures are nice, but my favorite solution is the annual pumpkin regatta. These gourds are enormous. Some of them weigh as much as John Madden, and they're just as buoyant. You think they carved them all out with those teeny little Swiss Army knives. There's awards for creativity. And the winner of the big race gets some kind of strange or something. Back it up a little. You know what's fun to do? Pretend the pumpkins are normal sized and the people are teeny tiny. Good times. The first thing we do each day here at Whacked Out Sports, besides getting a coffee enema, is to span the globe from backyards to the backwoods to find the most whacked out clips for a little segment we like to call Homegrown Videos. Look, up on the hill! It's a nerd! It's a spaz! It's... Oh! Super Dork! Faster than a 56K modem, Super Dork wages a never-ending battle against common sense and his faithful sidekick, Stumble Boy. The sad part is their parents thought they'd grow out of stuff like this once they hit 18. If only. Mamas, don't let your babies borrow tablecloths. From the super nerdy to the super flirty. It's been way too long since we checked in on the internet's 437,634th most downloaded diva, Totally Tracy. Tracy's great. Just give her a random object and she can amuse herself for hours. And most of the time, she's the only one amused. What will it be this time? I thought I smelled soccer. She's got her finger on the pulse, all right. Now it's double the Tracy and yet somehow half the fun. Reverse synergy. Okay, you've gone to the well a few too many times for the Frisbee gag. Seriously, that's enough. I'm soccered out. Don't feel bad though, T-Squared. Billions have been spent trying to sell Americans on soccer and it hasn't worked. What chance does one lonely woman with a video camera stand? It's time to bend it like Beckham, then break it with another segment of
Whacked Out Sports Top 5.
Today, the top 5 things to know if you want a job at Whacked Out Sports. Number 5. With ATVs, make sure you get a lot of face time. Number 4. If you look like this, every day is Casual Friday. Number 3. Don't forget to kiss up to Melvin, our employee of the month. Number 2. Make sure you bring a cup to the office picnic. And the number 1 thing to know if you want a job at Whacked Out Sports, if it bleeds, it leads. When Whacked Out Sports returns, thinking about shaving that beard? Do what this man does and use it to pick up women. Literally.
We're going for the KO when Whacked Out Sports continues.
Want to get more whacked out? Go to our social sites for more whacked out extras, exclusives, and more of life's big regrets you hope didn't get captured on camera.
Attention, those implanted with a hypothetical neck. If you have had hernia repair surgery with neck reinforcement, listen closely. Have you experienced infection, chronic
Protect your future. Call Jacoby and Myers.
It's Toyota's Red, White, and Used sales event. Celebrate your independence with $359 a month lease on a personal new Highlander, or get $1,000 cash back. We make it easy. Toyota, let's go places.
If you haven't seen Universal Studios Hollywood lately, take another look. So much has changed.
I recognize it. Everywhere you turn, there's something new and unexpected. The fun has never been this cool, and the adventure has never been more real.
Universal Studios Hollywood. You'll be amazed at what we've become.
See for yourself as you join Master Po and his Kung Fu Panda friends on an awesome adventure at the new DreamWorks Theater.
You could save energy by living off the grid. Completely.
You could generate your own energy at home. Maybe you could save energy by weaving your own shoes out of flax. Or just set the washing machine to cold. Do your thing. Energy Upgrade California.
It's Toyota's Red, White, and Used sales event. Celebrate your independence with $1,500 cash back on a new Corolla or Corolla IM with Toyota Safety Sense Standard. We make it easy. Toyota, let's go places.
Car wrecks are devastating. Never talk, settle, or deal with the insurance company without Jacoby and Myers on your side. Call us first. We've been on your side for more than 40 years.
Need fast pain relief that won't make a mess? Just kick and roll.
Icy Hot Lidocaine.
Slimy.
Max Strength Lidocaine.
Icy hot.
Welcome back to Whacked Out Sports. So far, we've delighted in appropriate sized kids, a couple of super dork kids, a monster truck leaps, and for some reason, this girl gives me the creeps. But nothing can prepare you for a segment we like to call
Bring me band, Hall of Fame.
You get it, your foot.
Remember Montanus, the famous Lithuanian beard lifter? He's not just the top strongman in all of Eastern Europe. He's ZZ Top Strongman. And now he's going to use his powerful beard to pick up chicks. Literally. Here's the volunteer, Katrina. A healthy specimen at 62 kilos. That's about $1.35 to you and me. A quick check of Montana's blood pressure. Whoa! 153 over 126? That's clinically dead to you and me. I heard of mustache rides, but this is ridiculous. He's done it. The crowd goes wild. Far be it for me to judge what's entertaining. But what the hell are all these people doing here? And he passes out souvenir hunks of beer to his adoring public. How heartwarming and yet revolting. Put that in your pillow and make a wish, little girl. I may never stop throwing up. Where is 50 rubles I was promised? I need to get back down to the docks. Well, looks like it's time to pull the plug on this one. That's all the bone-cracking, head-banging, rump roasting action we could cram into a half hour. So till next time, don't just be a watcher, be a doer. Get out there and break something. Smell you later.
Produced and distributed by Mike
Express installment loan, up to $5,000. Get 10 times more cash with a Speedy Cash Express installment loan.
Love that speedy cash.
At Morocco, all those good times turn into great memories. Whether you're starting a hot streak on the casino floor or just hitting up TNT for some much-needed R&R. And hey, why stop at one night? With such sweet accommodations, the good times can last for days. And the memories last even longer. Morocco, good times and great stories.
You have a car, you could get cash. With the Speedy Cash Express title loan, you get more cash. $2,600 to $5,000 and no clear title needed. Apply for a Speedy Cash Express title loan today and unlock more cash.
Love that speedy cash.
The new Lego City Deep Sea Adventure is now open. Are you ready for fun? Legoland Awesome awaits.
Award season is coming, and Modern Family is feeling red carpet ready
Yes, this in the bag.
for best costume
Mother Teresa. What? I'm her back when she was hot.
and best choreography. Make your move with Modern Family Nightly. Late nights at 6 on Fox 11.
Get that perfect summer glow. Celeb makeup artist Jamie Greenberg shares beauty hacks for the perfect sun-kissed look. All on the next Good Day LA.
He's killing. He's saying, oh, this is some whacked out sport. Oh, I hope this happens to you.
They call them the speed marks. Plus, fighting it big time. Two-wheeling it at breakneck speed. It's Mud Mania as female takedown queens become dirty divas. Then, women worth snapping a femur for. And the whacked out sports top 5. It's a pyro.
Oh, the fat man's gonna catch on fire. I got it. Oh, rain is on.
Boom goes the dynamite. This is Whacked Out Sports.
I just want Dawes carries you in your own water. I think so.
You're watching Whacked Out Sports.
Welcome to the show, sports fans. Today we're shining the whacked out spotlight on all those nitro-fueled knuckleheads who take it to the limit. Whether you call them brave, bold, or just gosh darn plucky, you'll agree, life's more exciting when you live it with just a couple of brain cells.
Woo! This is the Whacked Out Sports Baseball Challenge. The objective of this activity is to get these two teams of players to get
You got Stormy Daniels in the background there.
with the most balls wins. Now remember, ladies, no hands. Ready, set, get forward. Woo!
It's hard to cross over from one sport to another.
We take care of
Remember what a
business.
whiff machine Michael Jordan was when he tried to play baseball? And he was stuck. But what if you were never very good at your first sport to begin with? Like NASCAR washout Skeeter Fitzpatrick. Guys, that's not Skeeter. He's in the other lane. There he is in the red car. He couldn't make it on the stock car circuit, so he's trying his hand at drag racing. That shouldn't be hard. How many mistakes can you make in 4 seconds? If you're Skeeter, one big one is enough. He's so used to making left turns when he races that he nearly flips the blue car. I guess old habits and bad drivers die hard. Whatever you do, Skeeter, don't take up the javelin. They call it the lights. Drivers, Skeeters, BMXers, snowboarders, and surfers all know it. Many have seen it. It's that moment of transcendent bliss that comes right after you crash. The worst part's over. You realize you're not going to die. You're overcome by this rush of joy and relief. Any pain you feel goes away for a second, and you let your muscles relax. That's the exact worst time for this to happen.
And then we do really and then we repeat something. And we make
This poor guy's going to have flashbacks for years. Every time he turns on the dishwasher, he's going to be like, ah! The snowmobile's going to get me! And hit the deck.
This is what they're
Let's keep
playing
the freak
to
flag
be in
flying with some moto-tacular smashes and bashes.
to be in.
This portion of Whack Out Sports brought to you by Uncle Ricky's Road Rash Rub. The medicated rub perfect for soothing scrapes and wiping out wipeouts. Before you go to the emergency room, make an appointment with our ointment.
Oh, this is a lot. Teaching it. You missed me. And Jen. The Kung Fu Kid. The Kung Fu Kid.
And that doesn't work. Hey, where the hell is my record?
This is the end of America.
Here, why don't we check up on It's gonna be time to go. Barnard is growing, oh, and not about no guns or glory. It's all about legitimate gold. Make something wonderful behind the Mac. Return of the Mac. Little duck stuck in oil on the sea. Return of the Mac. iMac. Mac. Tough on grease, soft on hands by dawn.
On our office, because it would be Senator Feinstein who got her the job. Senator Feinstein foolishly,
Emeritus Alan
unconstitutionally
Dershowitz,
challenged her
Harvard
when she
University.
was up for confirmation.
Brr, brr, brr. Blast him.
Of course, the Constitution says that no religious view shall ever be taken into account in appointing somebody, and she made her a hero. And so, if Barrett gets the nomination, it's Judge Feinstein's it's Senator Feinstein's responsibility.
I'll come back to that in a moment. But at the outset, I was asking a hypothetical, as in, if President Trump called Professor Dershowitz, what would be your advice? The way in which you just answered me necessitates this follow-up, and this you can answer. Did he call you?
Look, I don't want to get into whether the president has sought my advice, and the president has sought my advice on a variety of issues, mostly relating to the Middle East. I have advised every president on the Middle East during the last several decades. I'll continue to do so. I will be available to answer questions
and give advice to any president on the Supreme Court. But the best way to assure that my advice is taken seriously is to keep it between me and the person who sought my advice. But I'll tell you, if he were to ask me, or if he has asked me, I would say that Kavanaugh would serve the interests of the American people in a fair constitutional analysis, perhaps more than Judge Barrett. And I hope he picks somebody who's a libertarian, who believes in precedent, rather than somebody who would impose her own reviews, whatever the source of those reviews, and I wouldn't distinguish between religious views and political views on the American people.
I think that answer just cost you 3 more invitations on Martha's Vineyard.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind that. Look, I'm winning the battle on Martha's Vineyard. The people on Martha's Vineyard are reasonable and decent, and they have begun to really condemn the small number of people who have said, look, because you have spent your life defending everybody's civil liberties, we're going to stop talking to you. Look, everybody would have been happier on Martha's Vineyard, including me, if Hillary Clinton had been elected president. If she were now being impeached or prosecuted or threatened, I'd be her strongest champion. I actually wrote a book previously defending President Bill Clinton's right not to be impeached. And today I'd be the hero of Martha's Vineyard if I were making exactly the same arguments, but making them for Hillary Clinton rather than helping Donald Trump by making the civil liberties arguments relating to him. So it's all about small-minded intolerance and an unwillingness to talk. This is what's going on college campuses today. Conservatives are being shunned. Conservatives are being denied the right to speak on campus. And when you see serious people, adults, making the same arguments, wanting safe spaces and trigger warnings, not to be confronted with a different point of view that they support if it only applied to a different person and applied to Hillary Clinton rather than to Donald Trump. But I'm not going to change my position. I'm going to continue to make my position. I make it in my book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump. I'm going to continue to make it in any format that I'm asked to make it.
I need to ask you about today's Times story, which suggests that via Mayor Giuliani, there's a change in strategy and posture on the part of the Trump legal defense team, which says that if Mueller wants to interview him, he's going to first have to make a showing that there's been criminal conduct on the part of the... that type of a demand of an investigator, I say, would be unprecedented. React to that story if you would.
Well, it's a smart tactic, I think, by the Trump team to put this in a legal context, to create a legal challenge. Look, nobody who's a suspect or a target, he's not a target, or a subject of any kind of a criminal case should ever sit down with a prosecutor. Prosecutors don't want to meet with you to help you. They want to meet with you to have you commit perjury. So any criminal defense lawyer would say, don't sit down with a prosecutor. But if you're going to be subpoenaed, you have to testify in secret without your lawyer in front of a grand jury, strike a deal. So they're playing hardball. Both sides are playing hardball.
But haven't the goalposts just been moved?
The goalpost has been moved.
The goalposts?
Yes, and that's what lawyers do. Yes, I think he has. Yeah, I think he's moved the goalpost.
Okay,
and he's made it harder for the sit-down to take place, and I think we can expect there'll probably be a legal confrontation, and Trump will win some aspects of it, may lose some aspects of it. There'll probably be
I have a final
opinion.
question.
Sure.
Important final question. Let's circle back now. Will the person who is announced on Monday night by President Trump ultimately play a role in determining whether President Trump has to answer the questions of Special Counsel Robert Mueller? Is that where this is all headed?
It's a good question, and the way the strategy is now leaning toward a legal confrontation very well may go to the United States Supreme Court. But remember that when a similar case came to the United States Supreme Court with relation to President Clinton, the two people he nominated to the court both voted against him. So one hopes for justices who can be objective. We didn't get that in Bush versus Gore. We saw a partisan decision. We didn't get that in other cases. And you know, the terrible thing about America is that we care so much who the nominee is, because the Supreme Court has become so partisan that it's no longer an institution just of law, of constitutional law. It's become an institution where who sits on it determines what the law is. That's not good for the law. That's not good for America.
We agree on that for sure. Thank you, Professor. I appreciate your being back.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts? Go to smerconish.com, vote on the poll question, Facebook, Twitter, all the social media.
Extensive forensic searches to find out who was behind this. The same toxin almost killed a former Russian spy and his daughter back in March.
Rescuers racing against time as a young soccer team remains trapped inside of a flooded cave in Thailand. The options teams are weighing to free them. Plus, the fate of Roe versus Wade remains uncertain as
Hey. Damn. He's on Fox News. Lock him in. Go back.
You, as a governor, your staff, in calls with officials, they communicated to you that they viewed placement in long-term foster care as equivalent to reunifying with a parent.
Correct. And that's why we wrote the letter to him calling him on it, and they have not responded, which is also typical of them. We would think that the federal government would communicate with governors. We've written them repeated letters on this subject, and they've ignored them all. So we called him on it, and we should all be alarmed by this. Look, a 5-year-old who's never met a foster parent, and we know there's good foster parents, but they ought to have their mothers, and mothers ought to have their children. And this is a continuation of their, I have to call it diabolical. I don't know what else to call it. In order to use these kids as hostages to try to get his wall and force his wall, that's what these children were used for, and he's continuing to do it. So I'm glad that we are continuing to beat this drum and shine the harsh light of truth on this abusive behavior, because only that will succeed in reining in this rogue president. We have to be diligent on this, and I'm glad my state is doing that. By the way, we've also helping these parents. We are now, my state, and this is why it's important to have Democratic governors, my state is actually helping provide legal attorneys for these kids so that they can get into court to enforce their rights. That's the right thing to do. It's not just congressmen and senators, it's governors, and that's why I'm glad we're going to elect some Democratic governors this year as well.
Well, let me ask you a final question on the politics of this. You heard Senator Hirono saying that she thought the backlash is bigger than the provocation, as it were. What is your read of this?
Well, I've been in politics for 25 years, off and on, and I can tell you that I have never seen an issue of any dimension that have touched so many human hearts. I have never seen people coming up to me saying they're losing sleep over this subject and asking what they can do. I've gone through the Vietnam War, the civil rights. This thing touched where people live, because every parent who is separated for 10 minutes looking for their child in a shopping mall knows the terror this provokes. And you know who else knows that is Donald Trump. That's why he tried to use this as a weapon of terror. He understands that concern, and that's why Americans, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, whatever you are, people understood how horrific this was. And that is going to translate into people coming to vote, because ultimately that's what we need to do. I've had dozens of people say, what can we do about this? Go vote and find somebody else to bring with you to vote this year. That's how we restrain this president.
All right. Governor Jay Inslee, thank you for making some time tonight.
You bet.
Next, founding member of the Freedom Caucus, Jim Jordan, you've probably seen him on cable news, faces multiple accusations that he knew about systematic sexual abuse taking place when he was a college wrestling coach. Tonight, the NBC News
for just $19.99 plus free shipping. And while supplies last, you can even get a second one. Just pay a separate fee.
To order, call 1-800-413-5071. That's 1-800-413-5071 or go to tritechlight.com.
Welcome back to Dodgers Dugout. John Hartung here alongside Jerry Kirsten Jr. and Omar Garcia Parra. The season low point for the Dodgers came on May 16th. The Dodgers under 500 that night, 16-26. But since then, they've turned it around. They're now back in the middle of a very tight National League West race. Omar, let's begin with the offense for this Dodgers team. What have you seen that's been the difference with the offense recently?
I dig here, guys.
Also, the way he approaches it, the Dodgers were really struggling early on with situational hitting. It looked like they were just taking big swings, always looking for the long ball. But since then, situational hitting started getting better. There were less strikeouts. There was more about just making contact. And then the long balls started to come because they just knew better.
Look at my